Retro.
Hey, this is Catherine Tabor, Senator Padme Amidala from Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Jay and Dennis on Podcast Stardust. Stay on the light side.
Hello, and welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithling.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And we're wrapping up yet another week with a look at some recent Star Wars news. But before we get into that, Jay, you want to remind everybody where we can be found on social media?
Absolutely. So it's really easy to find us. We are on Facebook and Instagram most conveniently at Podcast Stardust.
Yeah, and mainly Instagram at this point, because I have been terrible about updating the Facebook page. But I just haven't had time. And I need to go back and get some more of their posts up there. And I look forward to hearing from people once I do. But I apologize for that. But with that said, make sure you go check out what we got, all of our posts over on Instagram. Lots of stuff about our show there. But okay, well, with the additional line, the signal boosted maximum output, the shield being down, we are now broadcasting the galaxy. This is our weekly look at Star Wars news, and it's really going to start off as kind of a peek in on what's going on with Starfighter. At this point, I know The Mandalorian and Grogu, I think, has breached about $330 million on its box office, but I mean, it's tapered off. It's not showing in nearly as many theaters. You can still find it. I saw it when I was getting movie tickets for this weekend for a different movie pop up, but I don't know. I kind of feel like it's full steam ahead on our Starfighter anticipation. And with that being said, we've got various members of the cast that are currently out promoting other projects that, of course, are being asked about this while they're doing so. And up first, Jay, we've got Matt Smith, who we know is going to be playing one of the villains. He was recently doing an interview with the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. You can find a link to this on their website. I know Fan of the Tracks has got, I think Jedi News does this too. It's about the 47-minute mark of this recording. And at any rate, it starts off kind of funny. He was being asked about how he got cast, and he's like, I really have no idea why they wanted me. And basically, he thinks that maybe Ryan Gosling put in a good word for him. But then he got asked about his character, and he said, well, he's a pretty interesting guy or girl, or who knows. And so I think he's just being evasive at that point because he really didn't want to answer any questions. We all know that he's got an NDA. I thought it was a little funny. Apparently he hasn't really watched Star Wars, and he was asked if he's watched any of the movies since, I guess, the last time he was being interviewed by the host of the podcast. And his response was a simple next question. But the other thing that I found that was interesting is that we talked a few weeks ago about how Ryan Gosling missed Tom Cruise being on set. It was like the one day he took off from production and Tom Cruise showed up. It also happened to be like the day Matt Smith took off because he wasn't there when Tom Cruise showed up as well. Which, look, I don't want to get into a whole lot of spoilers and stuff like that. And if you really don't want to hear any background details on this, then maybe skip ahead for a couple minutes. But Jay, what this says to me is that Matt Smith is not involved in whatever lightsaber duel it was that Tom Cruise was on hand to help record with the camera there.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way, especially from that comment.
Right, because we know it was like some sort of a lightsaber fight happening in the water and mud or something like that. And Ryan Gosling wasn't there and Matt Smith wasn't there. So I don't know exactly who that leaves. I can't remember what the kid's name is, but yeah, it does start to narrow down at least one scene that's going to happen in the movie.
Right, yes. And of course, Matt Smith is doing his rounds for House of the Dragon and Prince Targaryen. I'm super excited for that one. But
okay, have you
he's
been watching
such
that?
So I haven't started, no. So
Okay.
yeah, well, I watched the first 2 seasons, and now we're getting into season 3. But yeah, I'm super excited to be able to dive into. Are you? You started?
No, I didn't even realize they were on season 3. I thought this was season 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, I have only watched like the
Or maybe
first
it is
half.
or season 2, yeah.
I don't take my word for it. I'm not the person to ask. You know better than me. I've only watched the first half of the first season of Game of Thrones. And I read the
That's
first 3.
great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've only read the first 3 books of that series, and that was years ago. So it is kind of a cultural blind spot for me. And so I
Mhm.
am so
That's
far
fair.
away from being up for House of the Dragon. I mean, everything I've heard about it is great. I've listened to other podcasts where they've talked about it in passing, and I've had no idea what they're talking about. And that's on me, not anybody else. It's just it's not, as we've talked about before, we all make decisions on how to spend our time. And it's not like I dislike these properties. It's just there's other things that I've chose to engage in more. So who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
it'll be something that I get around to when life is a little less busy. But it's just as I've just not been watching it. So
I think it's and this is not to turn this into a, Game of Thrones slash House of the Dragon podcast,
mhm.
but it's been so long since the seasons were on. And I believe that it started on Sunday, Father's Day, if I'm not
Mm,
mistaken. So there's
okay.
there one episode in season 3, but I need to go back and watch the recaps. I know that there's those on YouTube. I'm so terrible at remembering because it's been so long since they've been on. But anyways, so I love Matt Smith. I think he's awesome. He plays an awesome villain. And so I think he's going to be perfect for
Mhm.
Starfighter, but I am specifically intrigued by, that little quote, guy, girl, whatever. So maybe he's going to be a droid, a bad guy droid kind of thing, or
That's possible.
cyborg or alien, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Who knows?
I
Or him being
I'm
white.
hesitate to read too much into that, to be honest with you. I think he knows exactly what he's playing, and I think he knows he's playing because he's supposed to be one of the key villains of the whole
Mhm.
thing. And
Mhm.
we talked about how there was one version of The Rise of Skywalker where he was gonna be playing a villainous role, and it had been rumored that he was gonna be playing a clone of Palpatine at that point.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but, that didn't happen, and now he's doing this. I was just looking through his IMDb page because I was trying to figure out if I'd actually ever seen him in anything. And I know, the other big thing he's known for is Doctor Who. Well,
Right.
I've seen all of a handful of Doctor Who episodes over the course of how many decades it's been around, and he wasn't the Doctor for those episodes. I was about to say that I haven't seen him in anything, but and apparently he was in Terminator Genesis, which I did see. So
That's
I
cool.
don't remember his role, to be honest with you, um, which is fine. It was a fine movie, but I know Amelia Clark was in it, and I remember her, Arnold, and Jason Clark being in that, but I don't remember exactly what Matt Smith did. So that's something I have to go back and check out at some point. But I'm excited for it. I mean, I don't have a lot to go by from what his body works. I just haven't seen those things, but I've seen a number of interviews with him. They're usually all over our Star Wars websites that we visit because he's going to be in a big Star Wars project, and he always seems pretty charismatic. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm. I love the evasion though too.
yeah,
Have you watched Star Wars? Next question.
right. He was more interested in talking about how he wants to talk to Tom Cruise about acting.
Yeah.
That was the big part of the Star Wars portion of that interview. So, all
Fun to
right.
watch.
Well, moving on, Amy Adams has been asked about this as well. I can't remember what she was promoting, but she was on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and I think she kind of surprised him with how big a Star Wars fan she is. She was
Mhm.
talking about how she had all the toys, and she did confirm that she was in this like it was news. I felt like this was supposed to be a recent interview, but we've known she's going to be in this movie for some time now.
Right.
And she talked about the number of Princess Leia dolls that she's purchased and like been given away to friends, and that how she was a big fan of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and that generation of directors and really loves everything they did. And we've talked about this before. You don't have to be a big Star Wars fan to have a role in Star Wars. And in fact, we know a
Sure.
number of actors that their introduction to Star Wars was taking a role and then going back and learning more about it, and they became fans and the like. But it is just always fun when you get actors that have been lifelong fans, and now they're getting this dream opportunity to participate in a Star Wars movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've talked about Star Wars as being, the toy box of the last almost 50 years at this point, and so it's just been part of so many of our, collective psyche kind of things, and so, yeah, I just thought that was super cool that she is such a fan, and like you said, even if someone isn't and they're just being brought into the Star Wars family, this gives them the opportunity to see what it's all about and, say, "Welcome to the family," kind of thing,
Yeah.
so that's pretty
Well,
cool.
at the end of the day, I think as Star Wars fans, what we want is a good story with good acting,
Mhm.
great performances, I think is a better way to put that. A good score from the likes of, I don't know. John Williams can only do this for so much longer, so I hesitate to mention him anymore. I mean, he just did the soundtrack for Disclosure Day, but that might be the last project he does. But anybody else, whether it's Michael Giacchino, whether it's Loa Goranson, John Powell, we want those type of things, good special effects, good story, this, that, and the other. And if it means you bring in an actor that just isn't familiar with the show, fine. I don't care. Just give me the good Star Wars story. And
Mhm.
as we've seen with Andor, sometimes having people like Tony Gilroy who don't commit themselves to all the Star Wars lore and everything else can give you a better product. So
Right. Right.
that's easily a tangent we could go off on for like 20 minutes. But anyway,
For sure. Well, speaking of the score, I feel like we've talked about this, but do we know who is doing Starfighter, the score?
well, let's look it up.
You
Let's
remember?
see. 15-time Oscar nominated composer Thomas Newman is composing the score for the standalone film Star Wars Starfighter, directed by Sean Levy,
Oh,
according to Deadline. So he has worked on a lot of stuff. Okay. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Elemental, done work for Avatar, Jurassic World Dominion. Um, what stands out to you from
The
his?
Shawshank Redemption,
I had
one
not
of my
scrolled that far down
favorite
his.
movies of all time. And he did Finding Nemo too, and
Yeah,
Wall-E. So,
Skyfall. So he's done James Bond work. So yeah, he's got quite the career
yeah,
here.
very eclectic.
Been nominated for 15 Oscars. Wow. Okay, so it seems like we're in good hands when it comes to the music for Starfighter.
There you
Uh,
go. You heard it here
okay.
first, people. Or maybe not first, but you heard it here.
Well, we're hearing it first for the first time here, and we're sharing it with y'all. So if you get your
There
news
you
from
go.
us, you're hearing it for the first time.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, the last bit that we've got on Starfighter is that there is going to be some footage shown in Barcelona at CineEurope, or at least this is the report. And this is a new event to me that I'm not familiar with, but apparently it's a yearly event that happens over in Barcelona that allows studios to share what they have coming. And it's been reported that some footage from Starfighter, some completed footage, is going to be shared there as part of their showcase, along with footage from Avengers Doomsday, Gatu, Hexed, Ice Age Boiling Point, Moana, The Dog Stars, and Whalefall. And the other news coming out of this report is that Starfighter is also going to be released as on Infinity Vision, or certified for Infinity Vision. I didn't know what that was when I read that, so I had to look it up. And apparently, it is Disney's new certification for like the standard they want this movie shown in, which includes like the largest screens, laser projection, premium auto, and the first movie that's going to be certified for this Infinity Vision format is going to be Avengers Endgame's re-release this fall, and then Avengers Doomsday. And so it's not necessarily that it's a new technology; it is a branding thing, I guess, that Disney is using to say, if a movie theater is telling you that they're presenting this Infinity Vision, you know you're getting a certain quality of projection, sound, and screen size. So, I mean, I guess you could say Infinity Vision the way you say IMAX is the idea behind that.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad that you dropped that knowledge because I have never heard of that either. So that is that. Now, is that something that, I wonder if that is ILM slash Lucasfilm, adjacent kind of thing, because obviously that's
Well,
kind of been the standard for a lot of things
I
too.
don't necessarily think it is, because I'm thinking of like THX Sound that we had in a while. That was
Mhm.
a thing that they promoted to actually go into see. I think it's just a you can. I think it is like I don't know how it works, but I'm envisioning something more like it's an application process. Does your theater have this quality of laser projection? Check. Does it have this
Ah,
size of a
okay.
screen? Check.
Mhm.
Do you have, what's your sound quality? If it meets, these one of these things, then check. Then you can promote that you're showing this in Infinity Vision. I don't think it didn't come off to me like it's a new technology so much.
Mhm.
It is if you can promote you're showing this project in a vision division if you meet these standards. So that's something to look for. It's kind of like, I don't, for me to go see something in an IMAX projection, I have to travel a bit. That's not actually true. There is like a certified IMAX theater that is a bit of a travel, but then there's like AMC theaters that claim to show things in like IMAX, but I don't think it's quite the same. But I typically go to see my movies at the Alamo Draft House, and they have one theater where it's called the Big Show, and it's got the laser projection, it's got the best sound, it's got the biggest screen, and stuff like that. And so when I go see movies, I try to get that opening weekend on the Big Show because I know I'm going to get like their premium experience, and so I think this is akin to that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
And, I think that that's something that a lot of theaters are gonna wanna try to say, "Hey, we've got Infinity Vision," kind of thing.
right,
I wonder
right.
if they'll re-release any movies in that, you know what I mean? Like, if
Well,
Disney will go back
Endgame
and
is the first one they're
reformulate.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Besides
Well,
that, though, like,
right,
because 'cause I'm
right.
assuming that one's more of like a marketing, like, "Oh, look what we can do with this," but, like, if they're gonna go back and have different versions.
Well, here's the thing. I think with Endgame, they're getting ready to put that out because they could conceivably recapture the box office championship if they do that, if they put Endgame out in theaters. And two, why not? You're getting ready to do the next Avengers movie, and it's going to bring back a whole bunch of the cast from Endgame for the first time in years,
Mhm.
and Doomsday. And so basically what I'm getting at is like, would you be surprised maybe if Star Wars A New Hope came out in April of next year, promoted in Infinity Vision? I don't know exactly how that works because we've
Mhm.
all been hearing the rumors that it's going to be the original theatrical cut of the film,
Right.
not the most recent Blu-ray edition or the special edition of the film that's going to be in theaters. But that doesn't mean you couldn't convert it to a laser projection and give it the best sound and put it on the biggest screens and have this Infinity Vision branding at some
Mhm.
point. So
Mhm. Best of
I
both
get,
worlds. You get, like,
yeah,
the nostalgia factor, and you get, like, the peak technological showing.
right. I think probably the biggest thing that would be necessary in order to make it capable for Infinity Vision is converting it to whatever laser projection. I'm talking out. I was going to say something that I don't want going on the podcast. I'm talking from a point of like limited knowledge on this, but I'm assuming you have to make the movie available for laser projection, which a lot of old movies are not
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
ready for that format, and then have the soundtrack capable for those premium audio formats. So, yeah, I mean, I could see them maybe doing that, going back to the vault for some like major anniversaries for some of the best Disney animated classics from the 80s and 90s. Those are going to be some of those should be coming up on major anniversaries. I feel
Yeah,
like we
that's
probably
true.
probably already passed a few of those for like Beauty and the Beast and
Mhm.
Little Mermaid and The Lion King and stuff like that. But there's still some that I feel like would be hitting anniversaries that would be capable of that. But
Mhm.
I would guess major anniversaries for classic movies would be a potential for that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Very exciting.
Okay. Well, that's what we got on Starfighter. One last story that we wanted to talk about, and this is something that we don't normally do, but there's some action figure news that kind of warmed our Legends hearts, and that is that Jaina and Jacen Solo are getting a Black Series release from Hasbro. And Black Series is kind of the premium format that Hasbro has for action figures. It's their 6-inch line. And they are going to release the original children of Han and Leia, Jacen and Jaina, the twins. They're available for pre-order now. You can get it for $55.99. Jaina will be in her flight suit. She comes with a purple lightsaber. And we get Jacen in his fatigues with his green lightsaber. And then there's a few other accessories that come with them. And I looked into this a little bit because you and I had some offline conversation over text about this. They had previously been available in the classic 3 3/4 inch size.
Mhm.
And I couldn't remember exactly when, but I was a little surprised to find out this was their first release as part of the Black Series. But I know you're excited about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm always excited when we see any Legends characters
Mm-hmm.
back into action figures. But at first, I thought, okay, wait, it's not April 1st. So it's not an April Fool's Day joke.
Right.
So, I thought, gosh, this is really awesome that they're jumping back into, trying to re-release these types of figures because obviously, Legends is something that I don't want to say has been cast aside. It's just there's been another focus, as I was saying to you, as we were texting back and forth. So it just kind of surprised me to see this, but definitely exciting. That's for sure. Like, I don't know if I'll pick them up just because I've stopped collecting the action figures, but it
Right.
is very cool. I mean, they're, fully articulated, lots of accessories. They just look really good. Like, I'm sitting here looking at the website right now, and it's a great likeness. It's like Jacen especially is right off the cover of one of the books.
Yeah, I don't buy that many action figures now either. I have probably a dozen or so scattered around my desk right now, and a few others in this office that I'm recording from. And typically, and I didn't do it for the Mandalorian and Grogu or the Rise of Skywalker. Now I'm thinking about it, I would typically get like one or two as kind of like souvenirs from each one of the movies that came out. And I, it's kind of like the evolution of collecting. We've talked about this some over time, in that I hesitate to start something because then I become a completist in this. But I've gotten to the point where I am satisfied with just getting a couple now when it comes to action figures. But I get like all the books that come out, and
Mhm.
I don't get all the Lego sets, but I have a healthy collection of Star Wars Lego, and then I've got a nice art collection. I don't even have all of them framed at this point, but I need to start working on that. But it's just like one of those things with action figures. I remember with the Force Awakens, I was really determined to get like the core characters in the Black Series. And it was hard to do because it was the first new movie, and typically like one box would show up at like Target, and it would have like one of each figure in it. And so you kind of had to be like there when whoever was in the toy department unpacking it, if you
Yeah.
wanted them and stuff like that. And then you would be like finding that there'd be like a whole bunch of stormtroopers left on the pegs because everyone bought up with the Poe, Fins, and Rays and whatever, and yada, yada, yada. And action figures aren't, as best I can tell, the merchandise driver that they used to be. Certainly not when The Force Awakens or A New Hope came out back in the 70s and stuff like that. And because kids are now steering more towards video games and things on iPads and things like that than they are physical toys. And that's great. It seems to me that action figures, for as many kids that are playing with them, there's a lot more collectors that are getting these and keeping them in their packaging, or if they're taking them out of the packaging to pose them, whatever, or getting two, like one to keep in the packaging, or one to, and then one to play with, collect, pose,
Right.
do whatever they want to do with and stuff like that. But at any rate, it is cool to see them. I don't know exactly what the motivation was for putting these characters out, from in this, other than some guesses. In one, it's that they do need a steady stream of new characters, new figures from Hasbro to keep collectors interested, and that's what they do. Their
Yep.
job is to make toys, is make action figures, and based on, I signed up for their email mailing list years ago. When it was like the first HasLab project, so I think that was Jabba's sail barge. I think it was the
Mhm.
first one,
Mhm.
and just to get updates on it. And so now I get these things, and new Transformers, new GI Joe, new Star Wars, and stuff like that comes out. So that's how I heard about this. And so I think part of it is simply because it's another product to put out there for collectors. But we've talked about it that we were super fond of these characters back in the Legends days and stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there was a time before Legend, what now is Legends got set aside as Legends, that Jaina and Ben Skywalker, Luke and Mara Jade's son, were poised to like take over the Star Wars storytelling. They were essentially retiring Luke, Han, and Leia. There was I think a Crucible, or was the name of the book? I can't remember exactly. Where it's supposed to be. Spoilers for Legends. So if you don't want to know the fate of some of these characters, Jaina kills Jacen in Legends because he falls to the dark side, and she's kind of she's the sword of the Jedi, which was a really interesting development in Legends there. But she and Ben were going to basically be our heroes going forward in Star Wars storytelling.
Right.
But that was right around the time that Disney acquired Lucasfilm and then decided to put all those things aside so they could try and get into this unified story initiative between the books, the comics, the movies, and everything else, and not have these different levels of canon and stuff.
Yeah. And it's sad because, like we were just saying, we loved Legends and so many fans loved Legends so much. But I think that there's probably a kernel of truth in what you were saying about the fact that a lot of these toys and things are not so much for kids anymore as they are for adults and for collectors. And so, and I hate to say that because I am seeing kind of a swing back to tangible toys, which is very encouraging. But I think that, you hit it on the head when you said that, and it made me think, well, then obviously the reason that these are being marketed is to fans like us who are older and have adult money and have a fondness for Legends and for these characters. And that's where the market is. So, yeah. So if that's the case, give me Tahiri Vela and I'll be happy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'll say this. My brother and my niece were down a couple weeks ago to see The Mandalorian and Grogu. And I gave my niece a Mandalorian 3 3/4 inch action figure, and it had a little Grogu that you could pose on his back, like clinging to his shoulder, kind of the way that they walk around in the movie this entire time. And she loved it. I've given her a number of action figures over the years, and she has a little collection. She was super excited about that, and she plays with them and loves them. But I think she's kind of in the minority in that regard. I think kids have to be A, big fans of Star Wars, and then B, interested in the toys and stuff. So but no, but this is a welcome addition. I don't think I'll be picking them up, only because I just don't do that many action figures anymore. And but it is cool to see that there is a little bit of investment in Legends that way. And the other thing is that on one level, I'm not sure we should be too surprised about this because of how many Essential Legends books have been coming out over the years. It's like every year there's 4 to 8 of them that they reprint from the Legends series.
That's true.
And I mean, there's been Legends editions of all the Darth Bane books, and we're covering Darth Bane on our podcast, and it's one of the most well-received things that we do on this show. So
it is indeed.
Yeah. All right. Well, then, I think that does it for this week's edition of Star Wars News here on Podcast Stardust. Thank you all for joining us for it. We hope you enjoyed the discussion, and if so, please consider subscribing to the podcast if you haven't done so already. We're pretty much available on all the podcatchers that are out there. And if you want to catch more back episodes beyond what's going to be available on your podcatcher, the best place to do that is over at retrozap.com, where all previous 1,049 episodes can be found. Whew, that's a lot. We've been doing this for a while. And so we would appreciate it once you've done that, if you could leave your ratings, reviews, comments around the internet. I go look for those in a little while. Every once in a while, I was responding to a bunch of comments that were on Spotify a week ago, and haven't had a whole interaction on YouTube. We used to have a lot over there. So if you're listening there, let us know and what your thoughts on all this would be, and we'd love to hear from you. Jay, you want to remind everybody where else we can be found on social media and elsewhere around the internet?
Absolutely. So, as Dennis was mentioning at the top of the show, the best place for social media is Instagram, but we're also on Facebook at Podcast Stardust. And you can always hit up our Pinterest boards for some fun ideas for everything Star Wars. I mean, we're talking everything from fashion and lifestyle to collecting. So I need to put Jacen and Jaina on there as one of our pins. And I need to do some other updates on there as well. So but there's still tons of things to check out. And then, as Dennis also said, we have our 2 YouTube outlets. So if you do ingest your Podcast Stardust, that sounds weird. If you if you listen to us on YouTube and YouTube Music, please give us a review, share that out, and leave us some comments over there as well. And if you'd like to drop us a line, you could do so at our email, which is podcaststardust@gmail.com. And we also have a TeePublic store. So if you'd like to pick up one of our show logo designs, we have 7 of them on all kinds of fun things. And you can check out the link in our show notes to pick one of those up. And if you do, please snap a picture and tag us on social media, and we will be sure to share that out. And because we love to see where stuff ends up out in the wild, it's always very fun.
What do you got going on in cosplay?
Well, right now, a little quiet. So you can still catch all of my adventures over at j.snipscosplay on Instagram. So just had a really crazy busy summer, which is a good thing, but not a whole lot of time for cosplay right now. So going to be getting back into that, I'm sure, come the end of summer, early fall. So once again, check out all of those past adventures on j.snipscosplay.
All right, upcoming on the show on Monday, we'll be getting into the first episode of season 4 and on the Clone Wars rewatch. And then on Wednesday, we'll be discussing chapters 16 and 17 from Darth Bane, Path of Destruction as part of our Darth Bane book club. So with that, thanks for listening to episode 1050 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great weekend, and until next time, may the Force be